Chiefs fan, refused to wear the Colts jersey. She just held it up like this. And she hasn't gone out and said, like, I didn't do it because I'm a Chiefs fan, but the internet was like, she's a real one.
I love it.
And it's just like...
Sophie Cunningham breaks silence on how Caitlin Clark saved her life. You won't believe what Sophie Cunningham just said about Caitlin Clark. In an interview that's breaking the internet right now, Sophie admitted something nobody saw coming. While the entire WNBA world has been caught up in drama, rivalries, and nonstop chaos, one moment involving Caitlin Clark hit Sophie so hard that she couldn't stay quiet anymore. This isn't just another...
Hell no. I haven't watched a lick of the WNBA. I don't know what's going on. I talked to my teammates like the day that we did exit interviews and all of that. And I haven't, I need a cleanse. Like, I'm booking vacations. West, we need to go on a vacation and do a
player praising another player. This is deeper. This is personal. And honestly, after hearing what Sophie had to say, you'll understand why this interview is going absolutely viral. Sophie Cunningham, the player who never holds back, who cusses out league executives and says what everyone else is too scared to whisper, just gave Caitlin Clark the ultimate stamp of respect. And the reason why will shock you. So buckle up, because this story is about to take you on a ride through loyalty, burnout, rebellion, and two women who refused.
I can win and roam it. Like, I can be like, I'm here. They brought, like, I'll like put this shit on. Her not doing that is so incredible. I hope she knows how awesome that was.
You said it yesterday, and I was like I'm not surprised by it. I'm not, because you know what? Everyone's always trying to get her to like wear something or do something, and like her to
play by the rules. Let's set the scene. The Indianapolis Colts invited the Indiana Fever players to one of their games. It was supposed to be a simple PR moment. You know the drill. Smile for the cameras, throw on a Colts jersey, wave to the crowd, post it on Instagram, and move on. Easy, right? Well, not for Caitlin Clark. When they handed her that Colts jersey, something inside her just said no. She didn't make a scene. She didn't throw it back or roll her eyes. She just held it up, stood there with this quiet confidence, and refused to wear it. That's it. No explanation. No apology. Just Caitlin being Caitlin. And the internet absolutely lost it. Fans started calling her a real one, saying she was loyal to her roots, loyal to the Chiefs, and most importantly, loyal to herself. Memes flooded Twitter. TikTok went wild. And in the middle of all this chaos, Sophie Cunningham was watching from home, and she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Now, Sophie wasn't even at that Colts game.
The Colts have Fever players out. Sophie was not there, but they give everyone jerseys, and Caitlin Clark, grew up in Iowa, is a Chiefs fan, refused to wear the Colts jersey. She just held it up like this. And she hasn't gone out and said, like, I didn't do it because I'm a Chiefs fan, but the internet was like, she's a real one.
I love it.
And it's just like, it's so good. So good.
She'd already checked out mentally and physically. But when the clip of Caitlin holding that jersey hit her timeline, she had to pause. She had to watch it again. And then again. Because what Caitlin did in that moment wasn't just funny or bold. It was powerful. It was the kind of move that reminds you why sports aren't just about the game. They're about identity. They're about standing your ground when everyone expects you to bend. And Sophie, being the brutally honest voice she is, couldn't let that moment pass without saying something. So when she sat down for the Show Me Something podcast back home in Missouri, she made sure the world knew exactly how she felt. Sophie Cunningham is not your typical WNBA player. She doesn't do media training. She doesn't sugarcoat her opinions. And she definitely doesn't care if the league office likes what she has to say. Over the years, Sophie has built a reputation as the player who will roast her own team, call out the front office, and casually drop an F-bomb in the middle of an interview without thinking twice. She says what everyone else is too scared to say. And honestly, that's exactly why fans love her. She's raw, she's real, and she's unapologetically herself. But this time, when she talked about Caitlin Clark, there was something different in her voice. It wasn't just admiration. It was respect. Deep, genuine respect. The podcast setting was as chill as it gets. Sophie was sitting there with her coffee mug, no fancy studio lights, no corporate backdrop, just her being herself. The conversation drifted from horses to weather to baby fever. And somehow, in the middle of all that, she managed to hit every single headline the WNBA had been buzzing about. But when the topic shifted to Caitlin Clark and that Colts jersey moment, Sophie lit up. She leaned forward, smiled, and said, "That was awesome. I hope Caitlin knows how cool that was." She wasn't joking. She wasn't being sarcastic. She genuinely meant it. And then she added, "I'm not even surprised by it. That's totally her." That line right there tells you everything you need to know about how Sophie sees Caitlin. She sees a player who doesn't cave under pressure. A player who doesn't fake it for the cameras. A player who knows exactly who she is and refuses to pretend otherwise. Sophie went on to explain why that moment mattered so much. She talked about how everyone in the league is always trying to get Caitlin to do something, wear something, say something. The pressure on Caitlin Clark this season has been insane. Every move she makes gets analyzed, criticized, memed, and turned into a headline. The media won't leave her alone. The fans won't leave her alone. And the league keeps trying to use her name for sponsorships, ticket sales, and attention. It's exhausting just watching it from the outside. So when Caitlin stood there and simply held that jersey instead of putting it on, it was a quiet rebellion. It was her way of saying, "I'm not your puppet." And Sophie saw that. She felt it. Because Sophie knows exactly what it's like to be under that kind of microscope. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Sophie didn't just praise Caitlin and move on. She used that moment to dive into something much bigger. She started talking about her own struggles with the WNBA, her frustrations with leadership, and why she's been so vocal about calling out the league. And this is where Sophie's honesty becomes almost uncomfortable to watch, because she doesn't hold anything back. She admitted that she recently cussed out WNBA executives and got fined for it. She said they don't know anything about basketball. And when the podcast host asked if she regretted saying that, Sophie didn't hesitate. "No," she said. "I meant every word. Maybe I shouldn't have cussed it, but I meant it." That's not a politician's answer. That's not media training. That's just Sophie being Sophie. She explained that she wants to be more mindful about how she talks, not because she's wrong, but because when she cusses, people dismiss her as uneducated. "When I cuss, people think I'm uneducated," she said. "But I do know what I'm talking about. I just cuss." And honestly, that's a fair point. Sophie is passionate. That's her brand. That's who she is. And the fact that she can own that while also recognizing how people perceive her shows a level of self-awareness that most players don't have. She knows her platform matters. She knows she represents players who can't speak up because they're scared of fines or losing sponsorships. And she takes that responsibility seriously. "I represent a lot of people who don't say stuff," she explained. "So I want to make sure I say it right." That's powerful. That's the kind of leadership the WNBA needs, even if the league doesn't always appreciate it. And then came the moment that really hit home. The host asked Sophie if she'd been watching the WNBA finals. Her answer? "Hell no. I haven't watched a lick of the WNBA. I'm on a break." She laughed, but she wasn't joking. She explained that after a long season filled with injuries, chaos, and drama, she needed to unplug. She needed to step back. She needed a cleanse. "Good luck to whoever wins," she said. "I honestly don't care who wins." Now, Before anyone jumps on her for that, listen to what she said next. She explained that when you're competing every day and things go wrong, you need time to reset. Watching other teams live your dream right after you just lost, that's painful. That's not shade. That's just reality. And the fact that Sophie was honest about it is exactly why this interview resonated with so many people. She's not pretending to be the perfect teammate who cheers for everyone. She's being real about burnout, about exhaustion, about needing space. And that honesty is rare in a league where most players keep everything polished and professional. But even in the middle of her own frustrations, Sophie kept coming back to Caitlin. She kept defending her. She kept hyping her up. And that's what makes this whole thing so special. Sophie sees herself in Caitlin. She sees a player who refuses to fake it. A player who stands her ground, even when it's easier to just smile and play along. And in a league that constantly tries to box players into a certain image, that kind of authenticity is revolutionary. Sophie said it herself. Let the players breathe. Let Caitlin just be Caitlin. That's not just about Caitlin. That's about every player who's tired of being told how to act, what to wear, what to say. That's about freedom. That's about identity. And that's why Sophie's words hit so hard. The interview didn't stop there. Sophie started joking about winter fashion, peacoats, and Christmas bar crawls. Only Sophie Cunningham could go from talking about league fines to talking about her dream holiday outfit in the same breath. She said she's tired of sweatshirt fits and wants to look feminine and bougie this off-season. She's planning a trip to New York. She's upgrading her wardrobe. And yes, she's buying a peacoat. It's hilarious, but it also shows how she controls the conversation. 1 minute she's dropping truth bombs about the league, and the next she's making you laugh about fashion. That's her magic. That's why people can't stop watching her. And then came the final mic drop. The host asked Sophie if she had any regrets about being so blunt with the league. She paused, took a breath, and then said, "No, I'm proud of speaking up. Someone has to." That single line defines everything about Sophie Cunningham. She knows people call her too loud, too bold, too emotional. But she also knows she's one of the few who actually says what everyone else is too scared to whisper. And that's why this interview blew up. Because it wasn't just an athlete talking about sports. It was a person being brutally real about pressure, burnout, and keeping your voice in a league that punishes you for having one. So what does all of this have to do with Caitlin Clark saving Sophie's life? It's not literal, of course, but in a way, that jersey moment gave Sophie something she desperately needed. It reminded her that she's not alone. It reminded her that there are other players who refuse to play the game. It reminded her that authenticity still matters, even when the league tries to script everything. Watching Caitlin stand there and hold that jersey instead of putting it on was like watching someone say, "I'm not doing this anymore." And for Sophie, who's been fighting that same battle for years, it was validation. It was proof that the fight is worth it. At the end of the day, Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark are two sides of the same coin. They're both unapologetically themselves. They both refuse to fake it. And they both push back against what's expected, even when the league probably wishes they'd just stay quiet. That's why fans love them. That's why this interview went viral. And that's why Sophie's words about Caitlin matter so much. Because in a world that's constantly trying to change you, the rarest thing you can be is yourself. Sophie sees that in Caitlin. And honestly, we all should too. So what do you think? Was Sophie right to call out the league? Was Caitlin's jersey moment as powerful as Sophie says it was? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe because this story is far from over.